Have you ever felt like someone was pulling your strengths? Like your emotions, your attention, and even your choices weren't entirely your own, but they were being guided by an invisible force. Welcome back. Today we are pulling back the curtains on human psyche. We always like to believe we are completely rational creatures making logical decisions and based on free will. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Human behavior is governed by predictable patterns. And when someone understands how these patterns work and is able to trigger those patterns, they can influence almost anyone. In this video, we are breaking down 7 dark psychology tricks that actually works. These aren't just theories from old textbooks. These are powerful manipulation tactics, and it's used by marketers, it's used by toxic partners, cult leaders, and master manipulators to control human behavior and create obsession and influence decision. Now, before we begin, I would like to make a quick disclaimer. I'm sharing these tactics not so you can use to exploit people, but you can actually recognize it when it's being used against you, because awareness is the best defense ever. And trust me, some of these are happening around you every single day. So let's start with number 1. I'm not going to waste time. A tactic that can turn cold indifference into obsession almost overnight. That is the push-pull effect. Someone may ask, what is the push-pull effect? The push-pull effect works like crazy, and it's been used on so many people, and they have no fucking idea about it. Have you ever met someone who seems deeply interested in you, like from the beginning, only to suddenly become cold and distant? If so, you've experienced the push-pull effect. And here's how it works. First, someone give you their attention, their warm validation, and emotional closeness. Then suddenly, they disappear emotionally. They become distant. Their replies start to slow down, the energy changes, and you are left confused. And you may ask, why does this actually work so well? Because it hijacked the brain dopamine system. When someone gives you attention, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical that is linked to pleasure and reward. But when that attention suddenly disappears, the brain experiences a withdrawal. It's like somebody who is addicted to drugs and he wants to stop, he wants to quit. He's going to face that withdrawal symptoms. And if care is not taken, the person is going to go back to doing the same. So that emotional drop creates anxiety. And naturally, the person starts chasing the validation they lost. So the manipulator turned the attention into a scarce reward. Not something given freely, but something you feel like you have to earn it. And the more unpredictable the attention becomes, the more addictive that it feels. This leads perfectly into trick number 2, the scarcity effect. In economics, scarcity creates value. Gold is valuable because it's rare. Water is essential, but because it's widely available, we rarely think about it. And strangely enough, human attention works the same way. If someone is always available, always replying instantly, always saying yes, always being around, their perceived value is going to drop. But when assets become limited, interest increase. This is why, limited edition products sell out fast. Exclusive events feel important, and emotionally unavailable people often attract more attention. It triggers something called psychological reactance. The moment people feel like they can't easily have something, they are naturally going to want it more. And scarcity creates perceived importance, and manipulators know exactly how to weaponize that feeling. Point number 3, emotional roller coaster. If someone wants to create an attachment that's extremely hard to break, they often won't give you peace. They will give you emotional chaos. You have to know this. If someone wants to really create an attachment that is extremely hard to break, they are not going to give you peace, but they are going to give you an emotional chaos. This is the emotional roller coaster. One day, everything feels perfect. Like you feel loved, you feel wanted, you feel safe. There's suddenly distance, coldness, argument, silence, confusion. And ironically, those emotional swings can create stronger attachment than stability itself. I know you are going to ask why. Because the brain becomes addicted to unpredictability, and psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism behind gambling addiction. A slot machine doesn't reward you every time. It rewards you randomly. And that uncertainty keeps people hooked. In toxic relationship, emotional inconsistency creates obsession. And a person keep chasing the highs of emotional validation, hoping things will go back to how they were before. And over time, that cycle become incredibly difficult to escape. And that's the truth. Trick number 4 is based on psychological idea known as triangular desire. The concept was popularized by philosopher Ren Gerard, and it reveals something uncomfortable about human nature. Most people don't decide what's valuable completely on their own. We look at what others actually want and copy that desire. Imagine seeing the jacket sitting alone in a store. You barely notice it, but the moment someone else pick it up and desire it, suddenly it seems more attractive. And here's why. Because social validation changes perception, and manipulators actually use this subtly, like creating jealousy or competition. They hint that other people want them, admire them, or are interested in them, and instantly their perceived value increases. People often want things more when they believe other people also want it as well, and social proof can dramatically amplify attraction. So this trick works so perfectly. Next is one of the oldest manipulation tactics in the book, reverse psychology. Reverse psychology works by challenging a person's autonomy. When someone says, you probably couldn't handle this, you wouldn't understand, you are not the type of person who could do that, it triggers your ego. And human beings hate feeling controlled. And the moment our freedom feels challenged, we instantly push back. And psychologists call this the reactance theory. People often do the exact opposite of what they are told, simply to reclaim their sense of control. And skilled manipulators understand this perfectly. So instead of directly persuading someone, they guide the person into persuading themselves, which is far more powerful. Trick number 6, the silent treatment. Trick number 6 is one of the most psychological damaging tactics on the list. The silent treatment. During conflict, instead of communicating openly, the manipulator completely withdraw. No calls, no text, no explanation, and just silence. And for the human brain, silence can feel terrifying because the brain hates uncertainty. When information disappears, the mind starts filling the blanks. People begin to think, did I win everything? And are they leaving me? Do they actually hate me? And the longer the silence lasts, the more anxiety grows. Eventually, many people become so desperate to end the emotional tension. They apologize, they surrender, they try every means and possible ways. They accept the blame, which they even shouldn't do it. Not because they were wrong, but because they want the emotional pain to stop. Finally, the trick number 7, the yes ladder, also known as foot in the door technique. This tactic is surprisingly simple. If you want someone to agree to a big request, you don't start with the big request. You start small, very small. First is a tiny favor, a simple agreement, an easy yes. Then another, add another, like that. You have to keep on requesting something small. For the first time, just a little favor. Second time, just something small. The third time, go on and drop whatever you want to request at the last. And they will be compelled to say yes. Over the time, something called consistency bias take over in this situation. And human beings naturally want their behavior to appear consistent. So once someone has repeatedly agreed with you, the brain starts seeing compliance as part of their identity. And when the larger requests finally arrive, saying yes feels psychologically easy because the pattern has already been established. Before I end this video, I would like to say something. The human mind is incredibly powerful, but it's also deeply vulnerable to influence. And the 7 tactics we covered today, the push-pull, the scarcity, emotional roller coaster, triangle desire, reverse psychology, the silent treatment, and the yes ladder, are all rooted in real psychological patterns. And once you recognize them, you start seeing them everywhere. But remember this, manipulation may create short-term control, but it destroys long-term trust. Use this knowledge wisely, protect your mind, and pay attention to who might be pulling the strings in your life. If you enjoyed this breakdown, just hit the like button, subscribe for more psychological deep dives, and let me know in the comment section which of these tactics have you ever seen in real life. Stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next video.